Transformers. It's been drawn so many times, so many different ways, so many different variations. This, that, and the other thing. You know, Mirror Universe, Shattered Glass, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Your take on it. Where do you find the difficulty? Is it in the depth and the scale, or trying to get the detail?
No, so well, I think in my case it would be scale because thankfully the story has been thankful. Is like this the scale has been mostly we've been dealing with the Autobots or the Decepticons, but like in their full form kind of thing. So like and they're interacting with each other. Like some backgrounds is like it's easy enough to kind of like we're working with like this difference in scale when you have humans and it's like keeping track of like what's the how many heads tall is this, how many heads tall is that. So the story has been written in a way that like it's been kind of easy to navigate. A little bit of that. Now we're in volume 3. We're getting to like some urban areas that I'm like, I need to put them next to a building.
Multiple fields of battle.
Yeah. It's like there's a human, there's a villain, there's a horse. I don't know.
Well, you also drew one of the most incredible whales I've ever seen.
Thank you. That was my it was my pride and my challenge of that issue. Is like I'm gonna make this damn whale, but it's gonna get so wrecked. But no, so that part has been like fun figuring out. In terms of detail, I think this specifically this take on Transformer has been such a kind of like a love story to that Generation 1 design and visual that it's been more how to keep the look of the actual art like modern without necessarily having to rely on suddenly modernizing the tech, if that makes sense, kind of thing. So we have rooms here and there to play with like I'm incorporating obviously some a little bit more of complexity and like detail, but in general you still recognize the shapes of that first cartoon that and it's like it's bulky. It's like it's not all about like little tiny things. It's just about the general shape and the weight of the character. So it's been kind of like balancing out, but it's been really fun to figure it out.
I think what helps is like the blemishes and the wear and tear that you see on these classic shapes. If you just they weren't doing animation,
Yeah.
so that helps make them feel more real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it's not War for Cybertron. It's one of the recent CGI adaptations where like they kept that original design with a little bit more of like detail, modernizing a little bit of that. But like I'm very much a big fan of.
Power Primes.
It's the one that is on Netflix. I can't remember. Is that either way, or Cybertron something.
Whichever one you guys like.
Whatever. Yeah, that one is a good one. But no, I like that we get to play with like kind of like the simplicity of the general design and just playing with the texture of it. Yeah.
Thank you. Greg here from the hashtag show. My question is, I was just kind of picking back off of his, but obviously going, there's the Transformers world so big, and how do you, for your research, like, I know obviously Generation 1 is the birth of it all, but are you kind of combining other things together with your research, or what are you kind of focusing on most to keep the story?
Well, yeah, obviously, like Generation 1 is kind of like the guiding kind of like aspect of the visuals. But I was just talking about it, but I'm also like I'm very much into animation and like anime, and like I've loved mecha anime for a very long time. So like I've been trying to take a little bit of not necessarily just not copying what like Transformer has already done, but like trying to see if there's other like inspiration specifically for giant robots and stuff like that, and then see what I can bring from that into my take on Transformer. So it's been a little bit like looking outside the box, so we're not just like doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, like, there's so much to pull from.
Yeah.
That we will remix and bring in some elements. Like, I don't think you're seeing stores anytime soon, but you might see characters from different animated shows begin to populate. Again, it's about keeping people surprised, and engaged,
Not that it's a competition, but I feel like your artwork and the story, it's been more brutal than and so I want you to talk about, because I can see it in my head right now. Can you talk about like the layout for Killing Cup? Because what I was just read that, and like my brain filled in all the gaps, and I was like, I'm just really sad now.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I'm really happy.
Yeah.
You were sad.
No, you were sad. No, so I don't know. I don't know, man. I read what Daniel did. It's like it was pretty brutal from the get go. I just like, again, he has written these moments where like there's just room to play into how you want to show all this destruction and all this like tragedy kind of happening. And specifically for that moment is that I'm a sucker for making people like just gut punching people in the feelings. So like it's less about the immediate moment and kind of like the drive into like making you feel safe for a second until like you devastate someone with like the gut punch. So like I love the storytelling aspect of that. So. I don't know if necessarily it's more brutal. It's just like I have fun with that kind of like juggling emotions in that way with the storytelling. I think like if we put it again, if we put it side by side, Daniel is so much more savage than anything I could ever do. But I like to make people cry.
I just feel like it was more technical. Like I feel like there was a lot of eyeballs ripped out. Like there was a lot of technical like pain.
Well, yeah.
In the next round,
that for sure has been something that again when I started reading that first script, because I had both that moment and then I had the moment later on with the star screen and sound waves, and I was like, how can I make this feel like like organic, like guts and like eyeballs and eye sockets and stuff like that with this mechanical characters, and it's been a little bit of I'm surprised that I've gotten away with a couple things, specifically there's a where is it? I think it's no, it has to be with the Starscream thing, when I just wanted to be like, oh, this is just going to look like weird tech intestines like just coming out of this guy's torso, and so far I've gotten away with it.
I think the cup stuff was just really making sure that you understood like what was going on inside the like,
yes, yeah. I mean, the story was about they're losing basically. Like, they're
like, that's the reality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Okay. Trying to get an idea of what that writer's room is like. Do you feel like it's a lot of clashing between like trying to stick to this level of other Transformers continuity and like appease every fan, or do you feel like everybody's idea is like fair game, like when it comes to this?
I mean, the whole concept was like we wanted to make sure that we got all the details right for the hardcore fans, and that's that was Robert's representation. Then we want to make sure that the Labs fans that had interacted with Transformers grew up with them, see the movies, but kind of come to go. And people that never thought about reading Transformers and G.I. Joe. So it was, hopefully it would appeal to as many as people as possible, but like it was specific and it was a Transformers story. And so like everyone, Robert and I had kind of come up with this 18-month, 24-month plan, and then gave some series docs to Josh and Dan, and they took those elements. Dan really infused a lot of himself in that. Same thing with Josh, and it goes back and forth. But like those characters, there are some characters that jump from book to book. Overall, like Transformers is telling a Transformers story from start to finish. And same thing with all the G.I. Joe series. So it's collaborative. It's like, yeah, I like that idea. Let me pick that up. Like. Robert came, he's like, what do you do with Cobra Live? And Josh is like, I mean, they're going to come back. He's like, can you shoot Python up into space? Because I can use her. And that kind of came when he was writing Cobra Commander 5. So yeah, it's sometimes off the cuff and it just feels right.
Like, what goes into adding emotion to these technical designs, right? You talk about ripping out inorganic guts, right? We're feeling these visceral emotions for robots, right? Some that can't emote in the same way we can. What do you do with your visual storytelling to help us feel that beyond just like big visceral action.
No, absolutely. But that's kind of, I mean, it's kind of like a bit of the same approach. It's just like figuring out how you like. Obviously, you're going to relate to the humanity of this character. So, like, that was a little bit with like the guts and the gore of it. Is like I just make it mechanical, but you still feel like it's kind of organic and human in a way. When it comes to like the emotions, is the same way. It was like what is going to be the body language of this character? What is going to be like a better, we're talking about characters that sometimes have like full faces that I can play with, and I can pretend that they're organic, and then some I have Optimus that you barely see the eyes, and that's about it. And just like trying to find what is that connection that the reader is going to have, what is like that human aspect that the character still maintains that I can explode in terms of, okay, so he's feeling sad, he's feeling angry, he's feeling remorse or whatever. It's like then I hone in into that specific element and then try to emote with that as much as I can.
Like when Astro Train is free, like the rage, and it's just like I don't think you've seen it. Yeah, he pops up.
I love him. I love the psychopath. It's just all caps all the time. It's just, he's just an angry dude. But yeah, no, it's that. It's like Starscream, being Starscream, like just being like a mean kind of like character. It's just like mad at like but there's more humanity than or more emotion behind it than that, and it's fun to figure out this expression, especially like the Starscream that we have is one that has been losing constantly. So showing that frustration and thank God he has a full face that I can play with, but kind of a full face by this point. It's been attacked in many ways. But yeah, it's a little bit of that. It's just finding that human connection or human, recognition in this mechanical characters.
Thank you. I love that. So, speaking of these characters, these are such iconic characters from Optimus Prime, Starscream, such iconic designs, colors, everything. What goes into making these iconic characters your own? What stamp do you need to put on these characters where you feel like I've left my legacy here? This is my version of these characters. And when do you feel what's been the most surprising aspect about that?
I think it was more the recognition of like Optimus Prime means so much to so many people around the world that he was a superhero before I actually knew who other superheroes were. So I think it's more about just upholding that legacy, challenging the conceit of like how heroes persevere in the face of adversity, and that's like I think we probably early on got the most notes about how Optimus Prime acts because Dan had him fight pretty savagely, and Hasbro was like, I don't think he would go that far. So he does have guardrails, and like if you see in the second arc, and Alita's like, "You abandoned us," and he's like, "This is why." So it's like I like challenging what people think about this character, presenting new facets. But I don't think any of us are like, "This is our stamp." Like there are new characters we're introducing in different series. That's true, but I think it's just continue to show why these heroes and villains sustain, and hopefully get some new emotions, create new memories for new generations.
So you mentioned that you're trying to stay true to the G1. Not all Transformers, but every Transformer has a G1. Their first time they ever appeared.
Yeah.
So what about introducing other characters, say from maybe the Cybertron trilogy, like Hotshot, or any of those type characters? Do you see that as a possibility as well?
Yeah.
Because God knows, I would love to see Bumblebee and Hotshot go. Like do the Spider-Man game themselves.
Yeah, I don't think we want to be too self-aware, but it really comes to the writer and populating characters. We don't want to introduce characters in any book that are just throwaways. It should be purposeful.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
When Dan first put Cup in the beginning of 7, I was like, "You can't kill him." I was like, "Yes, you can, and it's gonna mean something."
Yeah.
And even I thought Robert was like, "No, you can't kill Cup," and he's like, "Man, that's crazy." So like there are some, but maybe not everyone's someone's favorite, but there are a lot of favorite characters out there. Both these franchises have deep rosters. That's why it's easy to plan out 5 years and be like, we haven't even explored this. Like we keep on saying like, don't expect Snake Eyes anytime soon. It's like pretty easy to commit to that because there are so many other exciting characters to introduce along those lines. So the Hot Shot's not going to be anytime soon.
Who do you want to see? Who do you guys want to see?
I already said, and you already said like 5 minutes ago that that's not going to happen. It's Beast Wars for me.
You know what it is? It's like, maybe we have a writer comes in, he's like, this is how you do it, right? Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know.
I know.
Yeah, everybody wants Dinobot.
But even that, it's like,
Not the
and
Dino.
we discuss having certain elements, but there's like once you set up where we start the story, and like Dinobots originated on Earth, like that's dinosaurs elsewhere.
Yeah.
So how do we get to that point in which they kind of discover that and create that and have a need to do something like that? I mean, I would love nothing more to see him draw Grimlock and everyone else, but at the right time. Patience is the hardest part of the job, as Josh has found out.
You don't want to burn through everything like
No.
right out the bat. Built to that.
Okay, go ahead.
You guys just introduced Risk in GI Joe #1. Is there a process with Hasbro on introducing new characters?
I mean, he was in our outline, and then Tom, a major designer, and he had designed all of Joe, all of Cobra. We submit that. I think the challenge that we had come up with, Josh, is like, we should create something new. But there are so many Joes. You have to figure out what that unique profile is. Like, what can we bring to Joe that's never been there before? I think some of that is exploring the character in the book, and we do talk about using X-Men as sort of the mold of what we're trying to do, multiple factions, good guys against good guys, bad guys against good guys against bad guys. And I think Risk kind of helps bridge those worlds a little bit more. And, we'll see how fans go. He's not going to get 10 pages of every issue to be the most important character. Like, the first arc is a Duke versus Cobra Commander. Now they have armies. And it's really exciting. That part. There's a moment in G.I. Joe 1 where Cobra Commander witnesses Duke do something that just makes me crack up every time. It's almost like a love at first sight thing. He says, like, this man is insane. And you're like, oh yeah, he respects someone real. He's like, this guy's gonna be a problem. Like, so yeah, I can't wait. I think Cobra Commander's been it's just fun.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.